That man, the one dying between the thieves, wasn't he the same one claiming to be God? Didn't he heal a man? Didn't he raise another from the dead? That man, the one they tortured to the point of death and condemned by law and humiliated by mocking, didn't he have disciples who followed him? Didn't he teach with authority in the temple? That's the same man, now on this cross, now condemned to death. That's the man. And now he hangs dying. Now all hope is lost. We watch blood leave his body. He cries out for his Father, who doesn't answer him. Most of us scatter and flee. But for just a few, compassion or loyalty no longer remains. All hope seems lost under this heavy, foreboding sky. The man who claimed to be God can do nothing but hang there and die. This is the man. With his last breath, he asks for our forgiveness. This is the man whose final words seem to say it all. It is finished.
My name is Scot Mendenhall. We're so excited to have you here on this channel where we talk about things that make your life better and make you better at life. That's the enjoyment we find in helping you in life. Today we are talking about Good Friday, and why is it called Good Friday? This happens every year on the calendar, but it's so much more than just an annual event. I'm joined for the first time ever in the studio, everyone. Would you put your hands together for Laura Gilbert, everybody?
Thank you.
How do you feel, Laura, to be on our studio set, to be on a camera?
I feel very bright right now.
Oh, this is great. Laura once upon a time said, and it was real soon, it was really like in the last month, she said, I don't think I'll ever do that. I don't think I'll ever. But here we find ourselves.
Yeah, you just never know when you get a chance to do something new.
That's right, especially when you're around here. We also have another first-time guest. He's been on here maybe 2020-ish, but he's not new to the studio, but it's been a while. We got my good friend Brian, also Mr. B. How are we doing?
Hello, I'm good. How are you doing?
We're wonderful. He is in the studio. However, it looks like you're on our old set. When we were back in the garage, we've resurrected.
I get my own special desk.
Your own desk, your own special spot, and resurrected a background for you, Brian. Good to have you in the studio.
Good to be here.
It's going to be fun. And then we got she old, but she a good one. We got Lily Arnold in the studio, everybody.
Hi, guys. Hello.
How are you doing, Lil?
Good afternoon, evening. I don't know when you're watching.
Whenever you're watching it, how are you doing, Lil?
Good. This is fun to have you guys here.
It's a little bit different, isn't it? You got some old souls that have been on here since the beginning, and then we got some new blood in here.
It's great to have you guys. Thanks for being here with us.
And again, we were talking about earlier that Laura was asking, what do I wear? Do I wear bright colors or do I wear dark colors? Do I are we coming in to like celebrate Good Friday, or is this like a morning service? And it's a very interesting conversation, because I think if you're brand new to being a follower of Jesus, or knocking on the door of like, do I want in on this? You kind of find this whole Good Friday thing unusual, kind of weird, if you will. So Brian, in your opinion, what do you think? Is it like medium celebration, no celebration? It is a bit of a bummer. How do you take Good Friday?
It's a weird both. It's a celebration, but it's also like someone died a horrible death. So there is I think it's okay to feel both those things on this day, because it is something to celebrate, because the debt was paid for, sins forgiven, all of those things, but also it was just a horrific, bloody, chaotic day.
Way to just jump right into the horrificness of being crucified.
there's not a nice way to put it.
I know.
You gotta dive in.
I'm with you. There's no way of sugarcoating. And we're not on this channel. We don't sugarcoat nothing. We go straight for the jugular. For sure. Okay, so then Laura, she was, contemplating on what she's going to wear today. And Laura, how do you see Good Friday, especially now that you're in front of a camera talking about such events that we're going to get to in a little bit? How do you view Good Friday? Is it on the good side or a little less good?
My past experience has been it's more of a somber time. Yeah. But like Brian said, it's also a celebration because without Good Friday, we wouldn't have our salvation.
Right. You wouldn't have Easter.
Right.
Yeah, it's the idea where I've always kind of coined the phrase, every setback is a setup for something great. You just got to hang around long enough to get the greatness out of it. Most of the time we quit. We give up on whatever the situation is, the marriage, the relationship, the job, the career, the schooling, whatever it is, we quit before we get to see the payout. And grateful that Jesus didn't give up on a Saturday afternoon. Oh, this is taking too long. I thought I'd been back alive kind of situation. He didn't give up. It wasn't a setback. It was a setup for Easter. Lily, I suppose we need to get your opinion on this. How do you see it? We've done this online a couple years, different times. How do you view Good Friday? Is it a bummer or is it a necessary part?
I'm with Brian. I think it's both.
Okay.
I think that it's important to acknowledge what Jesus went through on our behalf because technically that is what we owed and what we deserve to experience. But it's also celebration because it's why we get to be as joyful as we are here on this channel and have fun and also just navigate life together.
Yeah, so. I'm waiting on the idea that if I didn't know the outcome of the said story that we're going to talk about, it's a real life story with eyewitnesses to the event. Had I been listening to this for the first time, I might be moved to the remorse side and the weight of it, though there is all of it. I'm not trying to say what Jesus did isn't, as Brian was talking about, heavy and traumatic. It's all of those things. But because I know Sunday comes, Easter happens, it's a little bit like, yes, I want to give a nod to what happens on Friday because, as Laura said so well as well, that you had to have a death to have forgiveness of sins.
It was Friday afternoon, and Jesus is dead. His brutalized body hanging without life on a cross dropped into a hole in the dirt. His executioners had dug the holes, prepared the place, and done their job with ruthless efficiency. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. The hope of mankind overcome by powers of hell, by the shadow of a grave. We once knew what it was like to rule and reign on the earth. We were made to live in the light, in relationship, in purpose. We were made for more than what we've come to accept as normal. Ever since the garden, Satan and his kingdom have been tightening their grip. Darkness has ruled, evil, chaos, suffering, hopelessness. We've been enslaved and crippled by the holes the enemy has been digging for us too. But instead of killing the Messiah, the cross became a catalyst for salvation. The hole that was dug to hold an instrument of shame and death was instead filled with an instrument to bring healing and new life. That's the way God is. Nothing is impossible with him. He's always restoring, always renewing, always able to take what was meant for evil and turn it for good, to take our graves and turn them into gardens. Why? Because he never gave up on his plan. He has never given up on us. He knows what we don't, that you can't have resurrection life without death. Jesus, he died so we can have lives of purpose and power over the grave. He is not dead. He is alive. And because he lives, we can live again.
I want to give you in case you log off is salvation is baked into what transpires on Good Friday. Salvation and forgiveness of your sin would never happen to mankind the way it is now through Jesus without his death and resurrection. Okay, so if you log off that, you got to understand that. Jesus himself says, I am the only way to the Father. Through a relationship through Jesus. I'm the only way. So that means he begins to say, listen, all the other religions of his time period and of our time period, those are not the way to get back into a right relationship with God. It is through Jesus and what happens through this event. So you've got to ask yourself, maybe you know it, you know the story, but do you believe the story? Laura, when I say that, you know it, but believe, what is the difference of those two things? Do you think when I'm posing that question, and I know you're looking at my notes, like, wait, when you started my notes, that question's not even in my notes, and so I'm just throwing one at you. But what's the difference between I know the story because I see it on my calendar, but I believe in the story? And it's hard to say story because it feels like I'm saying Harry Potter. Do you believe that's real? Or Lord of the Rings? And so I hope you understand my question, Laura. How would you break down those two?
Ooh, so to know something, like I could read the story in my Bible and then I know it. But to believe it is to, I guess, take it into your heart and say, I believe, well, I'll just go here. I believe everything that's in the Bible. So I believe that this actually happened. And I want to explore that and want to know more about that because I want to understand my belief in the story.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. It does. I think everybody's pondering this, and hopefully they're putting it in the live chat at the moment. Brian, you're hearing it. You've got a little bit more time to process. You know, you get to be second in this, and so you got to be grateful for Laura taking one for the team there.
Thanks, Laura.
Yeah. So to you know, how would you break that down? And I like having a female's perspective on it and a male's, because sometimes just in the way men and women function and think, have different ways of viewing it. So if somebody came to you, okay, Brian, I believe, or I know the story, but I don't believe it. What do you take from a statement like that? What's the difference?
I think there's, like, knowing is kind of like the surface level, right? Like, I know that the sun is not currently shining, which is maybe not a great example. But
yeah, it's 2 a.m. If you guys didn't know that when we're filming. No, I'm just kidding.
But believing, I think the big difference is belief will bring action. Something will change. You will, believing something, especially something as monumental as Good Friday and Jesus' death, will change decisions you make in life, things you do, things you don't want to do, all of those things. I think that's all impacted if you believe, but if you know, it's just like, well, I know.
Yeah.
But there's no action associated with it.
Yeah, it's the equation. It's not a mathematical equation. It's a bit of the life application of this, is that belief, if you believe something, actions follow, which brings results. So the question is, do you believe it? Because then the actions will follow. If it's about me just behaving differently, because I know if I behave right, I'll get to heaven, then you're going to eventually go wayward because the results aren't following, because it's so hard. And it's like, how do I behave? What's good? I'm pretty sure if we went around this room and tried to define what good was, it would be Laura have a different one. I would have a different definition. Lily, Brian, right? It would all be different because our definition of good is informed by different things. So, Lily, I got a different question for you. Here sits on my desk. What?
A dirty anchor.
A dirty anchor. Why do you gotta say it's dirty? I mean,
because it looks dirty.
I mean, what do you want it shiny? What's the point of an anchor?
To weigh something down.
To weigh. That's how you to weigh it down. An anchor. What's the word anchor mean?
I'm trying not to use the word anchor.
Okay, so I'm trying to get you there too. I'm trying.
To stop movement.
To stop
by weighing something down.
Weighing something down. I've never heard it said with weight.
That's a weight. The whole way it works is its weight. Well, no, but there's those scoop anchors or whatever. The hook anchors.
That's the technical term. Okay, so you think anchors
stops movement.
Anchor is something to do with weight?
No, because of the hook ones.
So those don't have anything to do.
No,
or is it maybe a hybrid of both?
Anchors halt movement.
Anchors halt movement. Lord, do you agree with this?
I do.
Okay.
It holds something in place.
That's great.
Hold
great way
something
to put it.
into place.
That's a better way to put it.
Oh, somebody put that in the chat. That's not even my notes, but that's good. Okay,
Hold
that's
something in
hold
place.
something in place. Brian, anything to add? Are you liking where we're at now? Laura,
I like where we're at. I'm going to defend your dirty anchor because the bottom of lakes are dirty.
yeah, thank
It's
you.
going to be dirty.
Hey, Manelli, what
Okay, though.
What, Lily? Lily's coming in. She Googled something.
I did. I Googled it, and I will say the one. Well, no, they make. Anyways, a heavy object attached to a rope or chain and used to moor, M-O-O-R, a vessel to the sea bottom. Typically, one having a metal shank with a ring at one end for the rope and a pair.
Now we're getting in particulars. It's okay. That part is, but it's say the first part again.
A heavy object.
Yes.
Strong object. Attached to a rope or chain and used to moor a vessel to the sea bottom.
Okay. To the sea bottom. Okay. Now, this is the anchor from my boat. I went out, got it. I just literally, like Lily was talking a few moments ago, and I cut the rope off because that was dirty. So I cut it off so it had more room here. This is, let's see, it is made in Minneapolis, Minnesota for everyone. It is 60M, or sorry, 20M. What would that be in weight? What would the M stand for, a scientist? No idea. I don't know either. But anyways, it's pretty heavy. Now, here's the deal. With an anchor, it is the heavier the anchor. Sorry, let me say that. The heavier the boat, the bigger anchor you need. This would not moor any Navy vessel to the seabed. It wouldn't even slow it down. It would be like, it would just be pointless. Those anchors are ginormous. The idea is that you drop these down and they lock onto the seabed and it holds your ship, your boat, in place. Mooring is an offshore way of anchoring a boat. That's what mooring is. So anytime you see boats that are not tied to a dock or to something that's attached to land, that vessel is moored. Moored?
Now, at what point in your
Yes.
life did you learn that? Because I've never learned that before. In Florida?
Well,
Because
no.
that's the sea, you know?
Yeah. No, I cannot. There's not a aha moment for me, but I've always been in boats.
Sure.
So I think the more
You've been
you're
in
around
boats more
boats,
than me.
the more you kind of learn these things, okay?
M-O-R-E.
Yeah, sure. Don't ask me how to spell it. I'm not a speller.
Don't get it confused.
Okay. But I did learn something in Florida. We lived in Florida, Holly and I and my family. That's where we met Lily. We lived there for 8 years. And I was down there for 3 or 4 different hurricanes. And you watch everybody start boarding up their windows. It was wild to just watch. If you weren't lucky enough to have hurricane-proof glass, you had to go through the tedious effort of putting tin over your windows. It's just a hot mess. Everybody that owned boats out in the docking area you would begin to watch them. Lord, it was wild to watch. They would begin to take their boats off the docks and go out to sea. And they would have long rope tied to huge anchors. And they would anchor their boat in 4 corners of the boat out in sea. But they would have slack in the rope so that as the sea rises, it never pulls the anchor up off the ground. It can come up and down with it, and it's to prevent your boat from being smashed into the docks or into dry land or the buildings.
Makes sense.
But you have to anchor deep. If you anchor shallow, the waves in the seas will rise too high, and you won't have purchased enough rope to get your boat high enough. Does that make sense? It's just so you have to anchor deep, and you have to be anchored to something strong, which is the seabed. It's not movable like the sand you and I swim around. Okay, so I learned that in Florida. It was wonderful. Then I was thinking about the entire Easter story from Good Friday to Easter morning is the question in your life, what are you anchored to? In life, what are you anchored to? And if it's not to Jesus, how's it going for you? How's that working out for you? You going to bed stress-free? Is your bank account full? I mean, how is it? What is it for you? This is a real question for you to ponder right now. What is it that you're anchoring your life to? Lily, what was the definition of anchoring again?
It is
She's got to pull it back up.
a heavy object attached to a rope or chain and used to moor a vessel to the sea bottom.
Okay. So, what's the heavy thing in your life that's not a burden for you, but you're like, I know that's not moving? It's a good ponder. Because now what we're going to do is I ask this question. And all four of us that are on camera today, I'm going to just let the cat out of the bag. We're anchoring to the true story of Jesus Christ being born, dying on Good Friday, and resurrecting on Easter for my salvation, for my ability to join his kingdom. I'm anchored to that. Now, I know that the world is full of people that aren't, so I got to ask you, how's it working out for you? What are some of the, we're not going to be able to nail them all. So we're going to just go around the studio today and ask what are some of the fake anchor points that people anchor to that don't play out for them. So ponder that. If somebody steals yours, you can't say he said it. We're giving Brian the first, he gets the first at bat because it's the easiest. You have, all things are optional now. But as soon as he speaks, he could steal Laura's. And then put in the chat, what do you think are some of those anchor points that people put their lives anchored to that don't work out so well? Brian, what do you got for me?
For me, one that becomes all too easy sometimes is money. If there's money in the bank account, I feel safe, secure. We get to eat. We have a place to live. So it's easy to anchor into that sometimes and make that be the focus of life decisions.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're going to get a lot of hand emojis waving in the chat going, yes. I think that's one of the easiest. Actually, Jesus speaks so much about that, right? He talks about money, not as he wants your money, but that is a trap to anchor to. It's a trap. We all, because you can see it and you can evaluate and you can go, if I have more, I feel better. Okay, that's one of those danger anchor points. How about Lily? What's another one of those anchor points that we tend to get baited into that isn't really a heavy anchor?
I have so many going through my mind. I'll say relationships, like people. Dependence on relationships.
Yeah, you
people.
Especially coming from, like, she's the youth director here, so she deals with the teenagers. Man, how many remember when you were a young man or young woman and it was as long as I had a boyfriend or girlfriend, I felt complete? Sometimes the anchors we have in our life is what makes us feel complete, and without it, we feel inadequate. That's another way to look at what's your anchor point in your life, is when it's not there, the void of said anchor makes you feel uneasy, anxious. Those are those things that you're anchoring to that you're not supposed to anchor to. Laura, we're coming to you.
Yep.
I don't know if they stole any of yours, but what's one of those anchor points that you've seen people put their talents in to hold on to, like, this is going to get me, if I can weather this storm holding on to this? What is one that you think of?
Yeah, I think of work, your job. I mean, it kind of ties in with the money too, but I just think a lot of people put their dependence on their job and their worth on their job.
I think it can easily be tied, Laura, to, this is a work thing and money thing is hand in hand. But I think people, their identity in what I am who I am because I work in where I work. Like, we lead with titles that are titles for our jobs. Because we identify with it. We get some worth out of our job. Here's a danger. This isn't really necessarily a Good Friday thing, but this is just a people theme thing, that men tend to gravitate more to this than women, of their identity coming from what they do versus just who they are. Men that get fired or laid off, they tend to struggle about self-worth because, well, if I'm not working, who am I? It's a trap because we find ourselves anchoring to things that aren't true. Now, here's why I'm using the anchor point to this, and we're going to kind of, I think the Good Friday, we know enough people know of it, and you kind of move around and bounce around in the story. But one of the parts of the Good Friday story is, where are we at in the Good Friday story? You have your Bible open. Where are we reading from today?
I was told we were reading from John 19.
Yeah. Okay, can we put John 19 up on the screen wherever we're at? Because here's what we're gonna hop into the story, but this is part of the story that we want to. We're gonna give you pieces of it. Okay, so we're trying to tell you can pick up this story at John 19 for yourself. As I throw our tech table as like, wait, that was like the last verse in your notes, but Laura's got it pulled up in the hardback or the paper version right there. Look at this.
My soft leather
that's
Bible.
A beautiful Bible. Okay, so start reading it for us, Laura. This is John 19.
And this jumps right into the the ick of what Jesus had to face. But it starts with, then Pilate had Jesus flogged with a lead-tipped whip. The soldiers made a crown of long, sharp thorns and put it on his head, and they put a royal purple robe on him. Hail, King of the Jews, they mocked, and they hit him with their fists.
Okay. We were hopped right into it. She said there's like no setup. At the end of the day, he got arrested. The religious leaders wanted him out of there because their job was on the line. If Jesus is who he said he was, the final sacrifice, that there is now new hope, a new anchor point. These religious leaders are going to be out of a job. Well, you need to come to me and walk through my priestly jobs of sacrifice and all these different things. If what Jesus is saying is true, they're out of a job, and they're trying to create job security by having Jesus crucified and get him out of there because they don't like the new version of Judaism that he's really bringing in. And obviously I say it, better make sure I say it right. It's not really Judaism 2.0, but I'm just adding to, in their time period, it felt like that. It was the new covenant began with Jesus, and it was for more than Jewish people. It was open up to everyone in the world. Christianity starts with the Jews, and it goes to the Gentiles. And so this is the moment in the world's history that God introduces his plan to save the world, or salvation for the world, to everyone, is through what Jesus does. And it starts in the most unlikely way, where the King of Kings, that's Jesus, being arrested on lies, accounts of lies, made up accusations. And he's beaten to the point where you don't even recognize that he's a human. Like, there are parts in the Bible you read that he's beaten that badly. It's just wild. I mean, you don't need to image that for very long in your brain, but it's just like, whoa, that's how much the King of Kings was beaten. And I think, Brian, that's where we allude to it's a somber day because the Savior of the world beaten to not look like a man, right? That's
Correct.
where that comes from.
Yeah.
They like, Brian's got a nice reddish beard over there. Could you? I mean, they're pulling his hair out, like they're ripping his beard hair out of it. Could you imagine that?
No, if I pull one hair out, I'm want to cry.
Yeah,
and to have that all ripped out.
Yeah, have you ever like zipped a coat up and got your little whiskers?
Yeah.
It just makes your eyes start to water.
But yeah, he was tortured.
Instantly. But here's Jesus having ripped out, but when they're ripping it out, when you rip out chunks of hair in a handful, I don't know if anybody knows this. I mean, why do I know it? I have no idea. But when you rip out chunks of hair in fistfuls, you're pulling skin with it because it's all rooted into each other. You're not pulling one little follicle out. You're ripping out skin. So imagine his face being punched and flogged and all these things. It is brutal. And so there's the dark shadow, the darkness that comes to the Good Friday in the way that Jesus was treated. And Jesus goes through all these beatings and eventually has to carry his cross. And again, you need to read through this story because we're going to jump through. Has to carry his cross to a hilltop where he is hung. He's crucified. This is where they hammer massive nails into their hands and feet, and really just so, because I always get this, I don't know if you guys ever had this encounter, but people go, oh, well, that seems so made up to, you drive a nail through a hand, there's no way you could hang from that or rip through. But in Roman culture, the hand wasn't just what we, in our culture, what's culture, it's like the wrist up is your hand. Back then, it was mid-forearm was considered hand. And so what they would do when they would crucify a man, because only men were crucified. This was not for everyone. It was only men to be crucified. And it was supposed to be very visual and public, so people knew what the Roman Empire was capable of doing. The Roman Empire didn't even come up with this torture. They got it from another nation. The Romans just perfected it. And the idea is to make someone suffer as long as they can. You didn't want them to die fast. You wanted them to suffer. So people would watch and avoid whatever that criminal was responsible for that drove him to the cross. And so what they would do is they would look, there's two bones here. Does anyone know the two bones are called in your forearm? Anybody? I don't know either.
No.
Great. It just, Brian's over there holding his
the
wrist.
Radius and ulna?
Is it?
I think so.
Dang.
Brian, that's impressive.
How do you know that?
What?
I just remember that from like 7th grade
That's
anatomy
crazy.
class. Yeah.
and your teacher applauds you. I'm
Yeah,
applauding you.
wow,
on
teachers all over
for all those teachers, that's somebody today, Brian, are encouraged. This man.
At the age of 40, I still remember what in 7th grade I was taught.
Now, if you're completely wrong, somebody's going, no, these are so totally wrong. But right now, when filming, he's dead on. So great job, Brian. But they look for the middle, those two bones, and then they drive the stake between those two. Then you can hang. And just in the corner of my eyes, Laura shivered just a little bit. Just the thought of it, right?
Yes. That just sounds horrible.
Right. Now, the feet, they tended to lay the feet on top of each other and go straight through the feet. The feet were just so they weren't flailing around. And it also, the reason they drove the nails through the feet was so that it prolonged the death. Because typically in a crucifixion, you never bled out. They never hit any main arteries. What happened was when you're hanging on the cross, arms stretched out, you are sagging because you're getting tired. You can't hold yourself up. Your muscles, right? For hours upon hours, you start to sag, which begins to collapse your lungs on themselves, and then fluid begins to fill the lungs. And in order to continue to breathe, because everyone knows this, when your body's always trying to fight for life. That's just the way it goes. And so in order to breathe late into the crucifixion, you're pushing up on those stakes or the nails that are in your feet to get a big air into your lungs, and then you just drop back down. I mean, again, I'm trying to paint this out because, not to be morbid, but to get, hey, this is what our Savior did. Now the question is, do you believe it? Do you believe what an eyewitness from John? John was there. John isn't just a made-up man. He isn't an author that heard from somebody. He was right there. What's another crazy fact that might push somebody over the edge about John and his relationship with Jesus? Anybody got any? Do you remember anything I've taught you? Let's see, Lily, we're going with you first.
Well, I mean, I know
John.
Crazy fact. I mean, I know that he was close with Jesus.
Well, how do you know that? What made him close? What's one of those things? I'm trying to help you get there.
He was one of the three.
Okay.
What made him close?
Yeah. What's one of the big things that's like, oh, wow, this guy is really, really close to Jesus?
I don't know what you're looking for.
They called him the disciple that Jesus loved.
Okay, he claims himself like this, alluding to I'm his fave, which is right there. I don't think John and I got along very well. Okay,
or
Brian.
you would have been John.
Or maybe, good point. Brian, how about you?
That was the one thing that I know.
I think the thing for me that helps me anchor to this story is that when Jesus passes away, John steps in and takes care of Mary, Mother Mary, until she passes away, knowing that her life was in a threat to the Roman Empire and the Jewish leaders. He fled to Egypt until she passes, which to me, again, that's just those facts that help you go, okay, so I'm reading John, a guy that is protecting Jesus' mom even after his death and resurrection. I don't think you're doing these things if Jesus died and stayed dead. I don't think Mary is even a threat if Jesus just died and did what people do and stayed dead. Jesus comes back to life. So, John, we read this encounter, and it's like, oh man, it increases my faith. It allows me to anchor to this story, and we're going to get to why it's important to anchor to this story. Okay, Laura, as we're telling the story, can you find in there what happens as the sky darkens? Can you pick us up in that story there? And we're going to need that reference point for our tech table, because they're going to need to find John chapter 19, verse something in the story read by a scientist. Do we have it, Laura?
Read by a scientist. I like the way you said that. I'm looking.
She's looking. I put her on the spot. We didn't rehearse any of this, everyone.
I'm looking too.
Lily's trying to help. I could guess in the story. Here's some of the. I wrote this in my notes about anchoring. Okay, it's all about what you are anchoring to in life that allows you to continue to walk through some of the most unexpected moments and still have hope. Notice I didn't say enjoy those moments, but have hope. When we walk through life and anchor to the right things, we can walk through life's tragedy and still have hope. That there's good still in humans. There's still good ahead in my life. That this isn't for nothing. That we can hold on to things where authors read or write. That God takes all the things and works it for good for those that love Him. Meaning the tragedy I walk through, it's going to be turned into good for somebody. Might not be me, but somebody else, which gives me hope that this isn't for nothing. Sometimes I walk through some of those tragic events because God's trying to make me more like himself, which he needs to shave off some rough edges, the refining process. And so we're trying to get you guys to move your anchor points, because if you anchor wrong, your boat, which is a representation of your life, is going to hit all of that stuff on the beach and shatter and fall apart. And maybe some of you are already going, I've done this before, and that's a horrible way to walk through something because it complicates the given situation. Laura, my good friend who's a scientist, do we have it?
Can I switch to Luke?
Yeah, you can. We're going to Luke.
When darkness falls.
Yeah, there you go. We're going to Luke. Luke chapter what?
We are in Luke 23, starting at verse 44.
Like it. Lily's giving me a face of smiling, and you're like, we're tracking.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. By this time, it was noon, and darkness fell across the whole land until 3 o'clock. The light from the sun was gone, and suddenly the thick veil hanging in the temple was torn apart. Then Jesus shouted, "Father, I entrust my spirit into your hands." And with those words, he breathed his last.
He breathes his last. Then what happens? Keep reading for a little bit.
When the captain of the Roman soldiers handling the execution saw what had happened, he praised God and said, "Surely this man was innocent." And when the crowd that came to see the crucifixion saw all that had happened, they went home in deep sorrow. But Jesus' friends, including the women who had followed him from Galilee, stood at a distance watching. And then it goes on to the burial.
Okay, let's do it.
Right. Now there was a good and righteous man named Joseph. He was a member of the Jewish High Council, but he had not agreed with the decision and actions of the other religious leaders. He was from the town of Arimathea in Judea, and he had been waiting for the kingdom of God to come. He went to Pilate and asked for Jesus' body. Then he took the body down from the cross and wrapped it in a long linen cloth and laid it in the new tomb that had been carved out of rock. This was done late on Friday afternoon, the day of preparation for the Sabbath. Keep going?
Yes.
As his body was taken away, the women from Galilee followed and saw the tomb where they placed his body. Then they went home and prepared spices and ointments to embalm him, but by the time they were finished, it was Sabbath. So they rested all that day as required by the law.
Okay. So that we know puts us in the evening time because Sabbath for a Jewish person starts at sunset. So it's important. So then they, because it was part of the law, considered work if you did that, and you don't work on the Sabbath, so stopped everything. So, Brian, in the story, where is Jesus' body at this point?
It is when we started or when we ended?
Where we ended, right there.
In a tomb.
In a tomb. What's in front of said tomb, Lily?
A stone.
A stone. Did we read that in this version? That a
I
stone
don't know
was
if we
wrote?
read that, but...
Well, we know that. That's why I'm just
dark.
double checking.
It doesn't say it in this one.
Can someone find that verse? This is the beauty of this. When we do it live like this, we don't have to have all constructed.
I'm going to go to Mark 15.
We can go find, okay, we know this, but where does Scripture say it? We don't want to just memorize it and just tell you without giving the references. Because at one point, one of the authors talks about, and a stone was rolled in front of it. Now, some of you might be looking for it in this point of the story, but maybe you have to go to the ender part, if I'm giving you where I'm pointing those to look. Because I don't think it referenced the stone at this point. It would be on Easter morning. Tracking, everybody? I'm just trying to help them. You get to watch. Let's go to the widescreen really quick. You're going to see.
Okay, I got it.
You got Laura over here with her Bible out. She's trying to thumb through. And then you have Lily over here Googling it.
Brian's over there.
And then you got Brian using his phone really quick. He's over there off screen, but he's trying to find it as well. And so Lily won.
So you're curious about, okay, so we have a similar story, and this is Mark's account of this. Which, so through his word or his writings here, it says Joseph brought. Mark 15, verse 46. So Joseph bought some linen cloth, took down the body, wrapped it in linen, and placed it in a tomb cut out of rock. Then he rolled a stone against the entrance of the tomb. Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Joseph, saw where he was laid.
Boom.
Which is like a confirmation, that Mark is providing here.
Now, you got to ask yourself, why would I have the ladies read different versions and Brian look up different versions? Because it gives you the complete story. It gives you that, like the version that Laura has started with, in their women that followed him was off in the background, right? It wasn't important to the way John was telling the story because each one of these authors has something different they're trying to communicate. They can't possibly communicate everything but he has an agenda where he's going with. And then you come with where we're just in Mark. Mark has a different agenda. This is Peter writing with a ghostwriter named Mark. And so Peter, one of the 12 disciples, they're telling Mark what's happening. And he gives the name of the women, which I just think it's really cool when you get the names, because it feels like, oh, these are real people. This isn't once upon a time in a far off land. This is real people, real problems, real tragedies they walk through. This point in the story that we just read, their anchor point was Jesus. Now he's gone. This is in the story where it's interesting because I was alluding to before where I don't view Good Friday as such a tragic deal because I know the end story. But if you're in this play, the play, I'm not meaning like a made-up story, but like you're playing out this part of their lives. These women, Peter, John, they're fleeing at the moment. They don't know what to do because Jesus talked about this resurrection, that if you follow me, you'll never taste death. And now all of a sudden, like this guy that proclaimed all this stuff just died. He just died. And nothing happened. No angels came and rescued. Nothing spiritually seems to be happening. No traction to the story. It's just he's dead.
I like that Laura's, like your version, Laura, pointed out that people that watched left, and were they somber or they mourned or whatever they said about that, and then the women stayed and watched. And who knows, like between, moment to moment, if they lost faith. But I wonder just the anticipation and the wonder, maybe they were expecting angels to come, but I just think it's really interesting that everyone has a different story in the story.
I'm just, here's what I like to do when I read all of these stories is I like to take and humanize it all and go, what would I do in that moment? Because I think what happens, and maybe Brian, you've done this before, we make these men and women, and they're wonderful heroes of faith, but we make them into superheroes, that they never have human tendencies. They don't have insecurities. They don't questioning, what do we do now? Because he's dead, right?
Right.
I think it's important, right, Brian, to kind of put yourself in how would I feel on a Friday that I just watched this guy die who said death wouldn't be part of this story.
I think so. I've done something cool. You talked about the 3 different versions or four versions of it. This week, as I went for a walk in the morning, I listened to a different version every day.
Oh, cool.
And it's really fun because it's like watching the same, it's reading a different version of the same thing that's happening.
It's perspectives.
Yeah, there's different things that pop out from different authors and things like that. But one of the things that stuck with me that was really consistent is just once Jesus is arrested and all of that begins, like it feels like it's just chaos. Like all the disciples are kind of falling apart, right? Like Peter, who had dinner that night, is like, I'll die with you, and then denies Jesus 3 times before morning.
Yeah, but denies him in a way like, I don't even know this man. Like, nah. Yeah.
I never associated with him.
That's hurtful. Like,
Correct,
if Brian, you said, I never have known Scott ever. You're washing away 10 years of our friendship. You're like,
right.
And so, I think it's, I like how you said it's chaotic, because it is.
Because just picturing Judas walks up with all the temple guards and everybody, and it just breaks loose, right? Like, Jesus goes, people are trying to fight. Peter cuts off someone's ear. Jesus heals them. We can unpack that if we want.
Right,
That's the whole thing right there.
That's the whole thing.
But there's just a whole lot that happens in a really short amount of time.
I love that you're saying that because, again, what you're seeing at play, and I don't know if everybody at home is putting it all together yet as we're talking about anchor points and hurricanes. When the storm of life hits, it's chaotic.
Yeah.
Right? The bank account's dried up, as you were saying. Somebody's fired, as you were talking about. A relationship that you depended on falls apart. And I'm pointing it to the ones in the studio that said such things, right?
Yeah.
Chaos ensues.
Yeah, and I will say, like, we are not, in this studio today, we are not unaware of the fact that if you're watching this, you might be in that very same place. And the coolest part is, like, Jesus, like in Hebrews it says, we have a great high priest who empathizes with us. He understands what it's like. He understands what chaos is like. And so just to pause in that moment, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Scott, but we recognize, like, we almost maybe could picture you, and we might not know you, but these cameras sure are in front of us, but I feel that presence of someone who is in a chaotic season. And so hearing Brian describe that, I hope you can relate. There are some of you who can relate, and I hope you stay in this long enough to know that great high priest who empathizes with your experience.
Yeah, great. I wrote it like this, so I'll read what I said. Chances are some of these words you're hearing or watching, depends how you're consuming this, is about to get caught in a storm. One of you, or you're in the middle of it. Mm-hmm. The weather's brewing and the water is rising, and you can see the trees are beginning to bend. You've done everything possible, but your marriage still won't stand. It's just a matter of time. You bit off more than you could chew. You never should have agreed to take on that assignment like that. There is no way you can meet the deadline. And when that due date comes and you don't produce, then what? Mm. You've been dreading this week or this meeting all week. They've already laid off several men and women. It's only a matter of time before it's you. Why? These would be the personal director needs to talk to you, right? Somebody go, hey, the director needs to be freaking out. Oh, I'm coming home with a newborn. What do I do now? How do I handle this? Our hopes is to take a story of the Good Friday. And why I asked Laura to look up the stone and Brian to look up the stone, because if there is something to anchor to that is strong, and it is that the stone didn't stay over the tomb and that Jesus rose again, that's an anchor point. It's an anchor. You got to anchor to. Again, what is an anchor point? We talked about anchors a second ago, but anchor points, firm rocks sunk deeply into solid foundations. Not casual opinions or negotiable hypotheses, but ironclad undeniables that will keep you afloat. I've been around these wonderful humans that are on the cameras for 10 years. They've all... First year of Unlocked Church starting, they all said yes. Their families jumped in and have served in massive capacities. I'm going to tell you this, though. I didn't ask for permission to say this. I'm just going to go on a whim and say it. But in 10 years, their life has not been easy. They've had some tragedies. They've had a whole list of things that that they've walked through. But I can tell you this, from me watching as their pastor and being involved in their life, they are all anchored to the stone of the Easter story. That they don't just read it and go, this is a great story like Harry Potter or Narnia or Star Wars. Depends what kind of genre you like, right? It's something that they're anchoring to that helps them have hope in the storms. And as Brian said earlier, all of a sudden the entire cast of characters of Jesus' friends closest to him, their lives are in chaos because the storm has hit. Nowhere in history has someone that was human died and rose again, though Jesus was claiming that was going to happen. He told them, I'm going to die, I'm going to come back to get... And they're all going, what did he say?
That's, I think, a really interesting point, Scott, though, because he was very clear. Jesus spoke in parables a lot of the times, but he was very clear with his disciples that he was going to die, be arrested, die, and 3 days later, rise. And it's like they just forgot.
Yeah.
Or they didn't
understand.
understand.
Parables.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Well,
when
and
he needed to be clear, he was.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I think even knowing that they didn't understand that or they'd forget in the chaos, he knew they would come back to him.
Yeah, but I think that this is, again, as we're unpacking this live with everybody, okay, so this is very fluid for all of you, but we're trying to make this applicable. I'm tired of the Good Friday story just being a thing we observe, and we just got to be kind of somber because of. It's like, no, let's unpack this thing and make what happens on Good Friday applicable. And I think it's about checking your anchor points. This Good Friday, it's about you watching and listening. What are you tethered to that's going to help you get through the storms of life? Because chaos ensues when the storm hits. And I think what we're seeing is that these men and women that were given direct word, hey, I'm going to die and come back to you. It seems so straightforward. But they have nothing to compare that to. And so when chaos hits, their anchors are not tethered to something strong because they don't believe it yet. They only know. There's the difference. Is, as we were talking about earlier, the difference between knowing and believing is that when the storm hits, okay, I'm going to weather this because I know that, the clouds are going to break and the clouds are going to go away and the sun's going to come out. At this point, they're like, holy cow, we're in big doo-doo. Because they don't believe it. They just know. And I think there's a big difference in all of that, and you're seeing it play out with these men and women that we wouldn't do it any different. If we didn't know what you gotta, it's so hard to erase what we already know in the story. Because we all know, well, Jesus rises, so it's cool. But they don't. Mm-hmm. And their storm is real, just like your storm is real. And so futility. That's a word we use every day around here in the office, right, Lil?
No.
Oh. What's it mean, though? Brian? What's it mean? I looked at Lily and then I was like, Brian is like...
I thought you were talking to Brian, too.
Futility would be like doing something that's pointless.
Ooh!
Perfect. Wait.
Right?
Wow.
Like you're trying to, count the grains of sand.
Yeah.
On a
That's
beach,
a great
right? Like
example.
you can try. As soon as you get done, you're going to have to start all over again. The waves will just bring more in.
Right. I think this is one of those big storms in life that we get bombarded with. What's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point of doing this and that? And that is, and I'm trying to pick a one that a lot of us will walk through in a season of life. This is useless. It's pointless. And here's a crazy bit. People that you would look at and go, oh man, they're the president of an organization. They get to the point of, what's the point of this? I'm a CEO of Best Buy. Am I really making a dent in the world? Because at some point we want our lives to matter. It's not about boats, cars, and cabins. It's like, at some point you start looking at my life and go, did I make a difference? And when that storm of life bombards you, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with it? Because it's a storm. It's a big storm. Because men on the other side of that, we're using two F words today: futility, and then failures. And even Laura alluded to with losing a job, right? People getting fired, their identity. Failure. What is failure? Now, I am searching for a definition, Laura, but what is failure defined as? Now, in the definition I'm using is straight from a dictionary, so I'm not making it up.
Oh, Scott.
But when I looked it up, I was like, oh, wow, that's not how I think we run around with it.
Huh.
I looked it up, so I agree.
Did you, Lily? Failure is failing at something. I know you hate using the words in the definition. It's just not being able to do what you set out to do.
Okay. I'll give you that. That's better because you didn't use the word
It's
failure.
an elaborate way of saying what the definition
So here's the
says.
short. It's 3 words when you look it up. It's lack of success.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Like
that's what I have here.
it's missing the mark. Failure. It's a huge storm, right? Daily you're bombarded with failure. I think you said today you have a goal. From your small group last night, you have to fail today.
Yeah, we have to fail before our next small group. That's one of our assignments. We have to
I'm in
do
that small
something.
group too.
Yeah, we have to do something where we suspect or know we will fail.
The lack of success. Great. There you go. We're helping you in your small group.
Yes.
So if that is the lack of success, that is definitely a storm that brews in so many people's lives because I'm failing as a husband, a wife, a parent, coworker. I mean, the list goes on. I'm not succeeding at life. And then all of a sudden these storms. So how are you getting through those? The futility. I don't know why I'm struggling with that.
You got it.
A great way to sum that one up is you're just unhappy, though you have everything. You're just unhappy. And if you're anchored to Brian's alluded to the money side of things, and you have all the money and you're still not happy, what's the point? The point of all of this is we've anchored to wrong things. You have to move it to the stone that was rolled away on Easter.
That's right.
You have to anchor to this story. And this is moving from I know of a good story to I believe the story. Because if you don't, you're going to face all of these storms alone. And the tragedy is most of you will hear this today and still choose to walk through all of your storms alone. Psychologists in the year of 2025 currently would tell you don't walk through life alone. Like, that's not even scripture. They're only confirming scripture. They're telling you what Jesus already said to do, and we ignore. It's like, I can do this on my own. Because there's something wired in humans. I don't know if it's just me that thinks this. I think we self-sabotage ourselves daily. We're our own worst enemy. If we're going to go with my good friend Brian first, how do you see this day in history? How do you process this? You've read all of the different versions. How do you see it, Brian?
It changes everything. It changes, like, without this day, to be able to have a relationship with God is completely different. It's a different process. It's not like an open conversation relationship that I can have. It's more of a ritualistic, law-following sort of situation, right? So it changes, like, it changes the foundation of everything, right? Like, Jesus said this is a new covenant. So it's like the old contract has been amended.
Yeah.
I'm changing it.
Okay.
So the way life looks with God is completely different.
Laura, the scientist, we're coming to you. How do you answer? How do you see when I ask the question, what do you do with this day in history?
Such a broad question. But I think overall, I agree with everything that Brian said. I'm like, what more can I add to that, Brian? But I do think another aspect is just the hope it brings. Like, just having a purpose for our life through the salvation of Jesus Christ gives me hope, I know. And where I think that what we're talking about, those days where it feels futile or like I'm a failure, I can come through those knowing that Jesus is on my side. Like, I have this habit of picturing Jesus as a person standing right beside me with his arm around me when I'm having a hard time. And that helps me move on.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've been able to think about this while you guys have chatted, and it's just like this whole story steers my life. Every decision I make, I think of this baby, and ever since we knew she was in the picture, her whole life has been covered by this day and through prayer and conversation with Jesus. And I will stop talking because I might get emotional, but I just don't know where I would be without this day. So, yeah.
That's
39 lashes ripped through his skin. He willingly took on my sin. They nailed him to a tree, but he was not guilty. I should have took the penalty. Yet in his agony, he was thinking of me. He hung there bleeding and dying. But Sunday is coming. Once separated by sin, but Jesus reconciled me back to him. His body broken, his blood poured out in death, to the moment when he gave up his last breath. I don't deserve his grace. Even when they spat in his face, he still chose to take my place. Now I've been justified by faith, justified just if I'd never sinned. Sunday is coming. God left his throne to make my heart his home. His love just keeps knocking at the door, waiting for me to open so I could explore what a life spent with him truly has in store. God is calling me today. I can't delay. I won't delay. Here's what I'll say. Friday is good because Sunday, well, Sunday is where Friday is understood. You see, God will always finish what he started. His mission is to bind up the wounds of the brokenhearted, to bring liberty to the captive, to comfort those weighed down by sorrow. God has endowed me with hope for a brighter tomorrow. So every spirit of rejection, depression, or lustful obsession has to flee. If that thing has a name, it has a knee. There is more in my destiny than what's in my history. I can't rely on what I see. There is a word alive in me. Because of what Jesus did on Calvary, I am set free. Thank God for that Sunday. The one who loved me from the start is always chasing after my heart. And here's the best part. All I had to do was surrender. I just said yes to his will and his way. He said if I trust him and obey, he'll never leave me astray. God is calling me today. I can't delay. I won't delay. So here's what I'll say. Friday is good because Sunday is coming.
What do you think happened on Saturday? Because, like, something had to take. What do you think? What do you picture in your head happened on Saturday? Laura, my scientist friend, we're coming to you.
Honestly, I have never thought of that.
So, Brian, any thoughts? What happens on Saturday in this whole...
Like to Jesus or his disciples?
No, Jesus.
That's a great question.
I have no idea. I have not thought about that before right now.
I bet once you two hear what Scott says, you'll be like, oh, that was somewhere in my brain.
Yeah, for sure. It's back in there
Go
somewhere.
ahead, home run, swing right here.
I think, again, I'm not 100% sure this is taking place on Saturday or how fast, because no one knows the timetable. But if you go to Revelation chapter 1, verse 17, when I saw him, this is author John writing book of Revelation. So he says, when I saw him, he's referring to himself, I fell at his feet as though dead. The response, like, I know we're having a little bit of fun about Jesus, but I think this is response we're all going to have when we stand before Jesus. Yeah. I think all of your cute little questions you say, when I get to heaven, I'm going to ask Jesus. I think you're going to never even remember those questions in front of me. You're not going to ask the whatever funny question you got. You're going to fall, though, dead. Like, John's like, I just dead, couldn't even move in the presence of Jesus. Then he placed his right hand on me and said, do not be afraid. I am the first and the last. That's how we know this is Jesus. I am the living one. I was dead, and now look, I am alive forever and ever. This is the rock that we are anchored to. I was dead, I'm alive forever, and I hold the keys of death and Hades. I don't know. You know, somebody can argue with me the theological side of this, and I'm probably not here for that. But I picture Jesus on Saturday going, hey, devil, you think you've got the keys to death and Hades? I'm telling you, I'm taking that back. You've had it long enough. You've taken the car for a spin now. Give it back to Papa. And he takes the keys from the enemy and says, death has no more sting, no more victory. I'm about to break that. Because of this point, dead people did what dead people do. Stay dead. Outside of those that Jesus resurrected, but still at some point Lazarus died, though resurrected, right? He's dead. Jesus is about to do something that the devil had reign over, which was the death of people. And he's like, you're no longer over that. Now, when Jesus talks about this death, and we're going to end here, this is a bit of the understanding that when Jesus talks about this death, that you will no longer die, And this is where his Peter and James and John and those disciples, Laura, you were talking about earlier, and they're like, didn't understand when Jesus talked about, I'm going to die and come back to life, and anyone that follows me will never die. I think it's confusing because it's like, what do you mean? Because all the people I've seen in the last 2 days, Lazarus or whoever died, knew you, and they're still dead. So they're confused in what he's saying, but it's not the death of the physical. It's the death of the spiritual is no longer there. Those that put their anchor point into Jesus. The anchor point in this is that salvation piece that I believe. John 3:16 is what, Lily?
For God so loved the world that anyone who believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life.
Nailed it. Does your heart kind of go a little bit there?
No.
Yeah, sometimes John 3:16 can get when put on the spot.
I never know which, like, begotten son, like, which translation to just spew, but...
Wow, you got them in different translations?
No, not fully. Not fully.
Let me give you the NIV, the Message, the ESV.
Which would you like? For God
wow.
so loveth the world that he gaveth. Just kidding. I do love
great.
King James. It's beautiful.
So that scripture right there, again, wrote by the author John. He's trying to get you guys to paint this picture. Those that believe in, anchor in Jesus will be saved. Will experience salvation and will not experience death spiritually. And now we get the picture of how, because the enemy no longer holds the keys. Jesus has the keys. And that's a whole nother topic. We do not have time to unpack that. So my question to you is, as we land this thing today on Good Friday, what is Jesus saying to you and what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do with this Good Friday story?
Why is Good Friday good? Good Friday is good because the price we couldn't pay got paid and the stain we couldn't clean got clean. Good Friday is good because the world was without hope, but the Lamb was without blemish. Good Friday is good because the worst thing that could ever happen was simultaneously the best thing that would ever happen. Good Friday is good because on that cross, on that day, the great shepherd of the sheep walked through the valley of the shadow of death for us. Good Friday is good because even though the cross isn't pretty, it's beautiful. Good Friday is good because we have a king who would rather die for his enemies than kill them. Good Friday is good because I am not good, but he is. Good Friday is good because Friday is not the end of the story.
I just want to encourage everybody, just if you are in a storm, hold on hard. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Right? It doesn't mean it gets better with the snap of your fingers. But if you walk through things with God, I can tell you from experience, he shows up in ways you can't even imagine. So lean in and trust him and just give it a shot.
It's awesome.
You need a Saturday, folks, to get to a Sunday. Mm-hmm. You need the work to be done on a Saturday for Sunday. If that doesn't happen, Sunday doesn't happen. So you might be in a Saturday moment. Doesn't mean work's not being done. Behind the scenes, in your heart, in other people's heart, God's at work. Laura, any closing thoughts from you today?
Really, truly, what Brian said, what else could I say? Like, put your hope in Jesus. Like, he's the best thing that's ever going to happen to you.
That's so good.
I mean, you could talk to any of the people in this room. You know, I know, Scott, you were talking about that Brian and I have been through some hard stuff, and Lily has been through some hard stuff in the past few years, but you guys have too in your family. And, you know, if you're in a time where you need some hope, turn to Jesus, but we're also here as your community. Come talk to any of us and we can help walk you through that space because we've been through something too.
That's good. Lil?
No, I don't think I have anything to add. I'm just honored to get to be here and be a part of however this is impacting you. And Jesus is so ready for whatever you have to bring.
Yeah, it's a bit of a homecoming for some people, I think.
Yeah.
That, hey, come on home to Jesus. He's been waiting for you. He died on a cross and rose again for you for this moment. He knew technology would allow us to be here in Minnesota, the four of us to gather on an evening to film this and present it on a Good Friday for you to come home to him. He's been waiting. And so maybe some of you are like, well, how do I do that? And we're going to make it real simple for you. It is literally, do you believe Jesus did what he said he was going to do? Do you believe the authors of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? Do you believe it? If you get to yes, then the next thing is to confess your sin, where you missed it. Confess. You don't need to go down and write it all out. Okay, when I was 2, I spilt the milk. It's not that. It's Jesus, forgive me of my sins, my selfishness. You're going to know the big ones. You're going to know the ones that God is convicting you. Your heart's racing on that topic. Jesus, forgive me of my sins. I know that the only way to be forgiven is through your death, your blood. You're the sacrifice. Forgive me. And then believe that it is going to happen. And then see that you confess. Move to confessing him as your Lord of your life, the King of Kings.
Mm-hmm. Make it public. If
you will, close your eyes for a second. I'm going to pray really quick. Jesus, I hope you're moving in people's hearts. I know people are listening to this in their car, on a run, a bike ride, canoeing. They're watching from their couch, on their TV. However they're listening, man, would you convict their hearts right now that they would move into a relationship with you? That some of us that have anchored into the wrong things, that we would surrender those things that are made up, fake things that we anchor to, and anchor to you solely. That you're enough. You can be our anchor point to get through all of the storms that bombard us in life. Those storms that we didn't even talk about, that people are like, they didn't mention my storm, but it's a big one. God, those people need to feel your love right now. Would you meet them in the middle of their storm? May this be no longer a calendar event that we observe, but it be something that penetrates our hearts, and we see the world through this, and may we tell people your story. Jesus, we love you and we're grateful we get to do this in your name. Amen.
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 Thank you to those in the studio. Laura, thank you for joining us today. You're definitely going to have you back.
It's so good.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah. Brian, we're going to have you back for sure.
Thank you. Tons of fun.
It's good to have you guys
special
in here.
guest.
Lily, thanks for bringing, seriously, way to just rip all of our hearts out today with your emotions.
Part of it is, No,
pregnant?
Jesus has
What?
impacted me for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We will be back on Sunday, Easter morning, right here on this YouTube channel. We have a cool little slide. We started with it, but just for you as a reminder, right here, check this thing out. Lily made it so good. Write in the comments what you think it is. Does it look like lightsabers and things of that nature? It looks sweet.
We got a neon theme going in person, so we just wanted to make sure that y'all felt
Are
it
you
here
kidding?
online.
Our studio.
Oh yeah,
looks
you're
like
right.
that.
You're right.
It looks just like that.
It
Well
is.
done.
It actually really matches, so you guys are getting the full experience.
Yeah. So if you're local and get to Minnesota, in Champlin, Minnesota, easy to find. It's Man's Theater right there. Come join us at 10 a.m. If you are online, we'll be here at 8 a.m. Chat will be going. It's going to be a great Easter service for your enjoyment. We are giving away some really cool things during our Easter service in here. Kids live are doing an Easter egg hunt with a what?
With a twist.
Can you give us a hint to what that means? Do we get to hear that?
I don't think so.
What?
Ooh, you got to show up with your kids.
Yeah, I would just say, kids, you need to be there and invite some friends.
It was really fun to have you guys
It
here.
was. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you on Easter morning, 8 a.m. here on the YouTube channel. Laura, thank you. I almost said crybaby because I was just making fun of you.
Oh my God.
Ryan, thanks for being here, guys.
Oh, man.
We'll see you on Sunday. Bye.
Crybaby.